I see trees of green, red roses too.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. This week, an incredibly serious video all about Jack and the Beanstalk, because it's a fascinating tale, isn't it? For adults. I don't think children like it so much. It's too serious. Yeah, Jack, a young lad, he was fairly poor, didn't have a great lot of money, lived with his mother in a cottage, didn't he? And one day the mother said, well, Jack, we're so poor, I'm afraid you're going to have to sell your shirt, because I like gambling. And he said, I'm not selling my shirt. Goodness me, that's ridiculous. I'd have to wear that big fluffy jersey around it. She said, well, what are we going to do for money, Jack? I've got a gambling habit, as you know, and I haven't been able to overcome it as yet. And he said, well, why don't we sell the cow, eh? She said, well, what are we going to do for milk? You like having milk on your porridge in the morning, Jack. You've got to think these things through. And Jack said, well, we'll get bottled milk. The milkman can come around every morning. She said, look, you're 300 years too early. Bottled milk, right? It's just not in this area as yet. Jack said, look, if I'm going to help you with your gambling habit, you've got to help me out. And she said, you're only a lad. What do you want? And he said, look, well, what we'll do is I'll go down to the market, sell the cow, right? Get bottled milk from there on. And then we'll, I don't know, next time you win at the casino, you give me 50-50. How's that sound? And the mother said, okay. So Jack took the cow, right, to the market. And on the way to the market, as we know, he got diverted. And he walked into a tree. The cow sort of looked at him, didn't say anything, because cows don't usually say anything. But she sort of looked at him like he was a complete idiot. And Jack looked back at the cow and he said, well, you think I'm an idiot, don't you? And the cow just looked at him. So they continued on the way, and eventually they got to the market. And they got to the market, and there was an auction there, you know, and that's how they sold cows in those days. And they started off bidding for the cow, you see. And one guy said £2. And another guy said 2 beans. And another guy said, well, hang on a minute, you can't bet in beans? Goodness me, that's ridiculous. This is an auction. He said 3 beans. He said, well, hang on a minute. And he said 4 beans. He said, righto, £3. He said, well, 5 beans. And he said, £4. And he said, 6 beans. He said, you're not even keeping up with me. This is ridiculous. And he said, right, I'm out. And so the cow was sold for 6 beans. Jack was beside himself. He didn't know what to do with beans. He said, I can't take beans home to my mother. Goodness me, I want at least coins, because my mother likes playing the pokies, and they don't take beans. Can you do something about this? And the auctioneer said, no, I'm afraid they've been sold for 5 beans, Jack. It's a bit of a rip-off. I don't know where that guy come from. So it slipped in the back door. He certainly hadn't filled out any form like we usually request, but that's what's happened. You've got to accept it, Jack, and be on your way. So he took the beans, went home to his mother, and his mother wasn't too pleased. She said, goodness me, Jack, where on earth have you got these beans from, and what are we going to do with them? He said, well, I'm hungry. She said, I wanted some money to go to the casino with. He said, well, I don't really want to support you in your gambling addiction anyway, Mother. I don't think it's very clever. And she said, no. Right, that's it. And she took Jack and she threw him out the window. He had the beans in his pocket, of course, and as he landed in the garden, you see, and he kind of stayed there. She didn't go near him. She was feeling negligent to her mother. Out of his pocket grew this massive beanstalk, you see. And as he woke up the next morning, you know, because he became unconscious, yeah, there was this massive green beanstalk growing up right next to him, you see. So he said, oh, goodness me, this must have grown out of the beans. Mother, that fertilizer that you put in the garden last week is absolutely fantastic. I can't believe it. Where did you get it from? And she said, well, I got it from that really dodgy friend of mine, you know, that's been giving me the money to go to the casino. And he said, well, you know what? That stuff is explosive. If we could bag that up, right, and sell it, you'd have as much money as you want to go and blow at the casino as you could ever want. And she said, well, you've got a good head on you, young lad. She said, I'll give him I'll give him a ring right now. Get him round, and we'll see if we can get some of this magic fertiliser off. Because I've never seen a beanstalk grow that quick either. So she gave him a ring, and he answered the phone, and he said, well, that's strange ringing me, isn't it? She said, why is that? He said, because phones haven't even really been invented, you know, not for another 500 years. She said, I know, but you answered it, didn't you? He said, well, that's true. And so she said, look, can you come around and bring some of that fertiliser? There seems to be a pretty phenomenal effect on my garden. He said, certainly, I'll bring a couple of bags around. So he came around with the fertiliser, and she said, look, can we buy a couple of bags there of the fertiliser? And he said, well, no problem, but you do already owe me, what is it, £100 now? She said, I know, but I was thinking of giving you the one chair that we own, as sort of payment for the fertiliser. He said, the chair's not worth much. What am I going to do with a chair? She said, well, you can always sit on it. And he said, I don't want to sit. She said, look, just take the chair, right? Just give us those fertiliser. Fertiliser's not worth much, really. He said, it looks to be doing pretty well. That beanstalk wasn't there the other day, and look, it's, 100 foot high? She said, okay, we'll give you the chair, and I'll sell you Jack. He said, you can't do that, I'm not into buying children. She said, okay, well, forget that. Okay, take the kettle and the chair, and, yeah, 2 bags of fertiliser, that's right. He said, okay, so she took the fertiliser, and he was off on his way, and she said, God, Jack, we're going to make a fortune now. Look at that beanstalk. And he said, yeah, but how can we prove that it was actual fact from that fertiliser that created the beanstalk? And she said, well, we'll go and demonstrate it in the village. So they said, yeah, okay. Ugh. So Jack and his mother went into the village, and they started selling this magic fertiliser, you see. It could grow beanstalks were like 100 feet high. One guy turned up and he said, look, I don't believe you. How on earth can you grow a beanstalk 100 foot high from this fertiliser? And how can you prove it? She said, come home to our house, right, and you can see this man. He said, yeah, okay, but how do we know it's from the fertiliser? She said, good point. Why don't we see what else it does? So she took the fertiliser, tipped it onto the ground, right, and then took a few beans out of her own pocket, threw them into the fertiliser, and all of a sudden turned into a big beanstalk. The guy said, oh, God, that's not bad. The thing is, where are the beans on the beanstalk? That's the thing. Because if we're going to make money out of it all, we've got to have beans on the beanstalk. No point in having just a beanstalk. He said, well, that's the point. But what you can do is you can climb up it. He said, what am I going to do that for? I'm a grown man. I don't do things like that. She said, oh, you never know. You could have a big adventure. There could be like a castle up there or something like that. He said, you're on drugs, aren't you, lady? I know you. I've seen you down at the casino there blowing all your money on that damn, one-armed bandits and all that. She said, true. He said, look, I'll go for a quick look up there, see what's up there, and if there's anything that I can make money out of, like a tourist attraction or anything like that, yeah, I'll get some more of that fertiliser up here. So he sort of climbed up there a wee bit, and Jack and his mother were down on the ground watching, and they got a wee out there, and all of a sudden there was this giant yelling out to him. He said, oh, who are you? He said, fee, fo, fi, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. He said, no, you're wrong. He said, I do, I smell you. He said, I'm not English at all. I'm Italian. I have an English accent. I've lived here for years. And no, I'm Italian, actually. I've got an Italian passport. My wife's English. He said, I couldn't care what. I don't care where your wife's from. I don't care your nationality. I just want to eat you. He said, well, you can't eat me. He said, well, actually, the rhyme is fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of the Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. And he said, you're not making bread out of me, mate. And he pedalled down and he got out. You know, this whole story, Jack and the Beanstalk, goes on for a couple of years. And this video is only, I don't think you want to listen for a couple of years, do you? So I'm going to stop it now. Anyway, that's Jack and the Beanstalk. Thanks for watching my video. Please rate it, even better subscribe. Check this channel out, right? Bingo. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week. Bye.